In the stillness of your breath, in the quiet moments when the world retreats, and you are left with only the echo of your own thoughts, there exists a sacred opportunity, a moment to peer inward and gently inquire, am I unknowingly standing in the way of my own spiritual growth? We often search outward for signs, for confirmations of progress, for validation of awakening. And yet the true measure of our journey lies not in what we show, but in what we silently carry. Buddhism teaches us that the path to awakening is not paved by accumulation, but by release, the shedding of illusion, attachment, and ego. And yet, even on this sacred path, we may stumble, not because we are flawed, but because we are human. The first subtle sign that you may be blocking your spiritual growth is the quiet resistance to discomfort, the internal voice that whispers not this when pain arises, the gentle tightening of the heart when life fails to align with expectation. This resistance, often cloaked in logic or masked as self-care, is the ego's final stronghold. It says, I will grow, but only on my terms. I will awaken, but only through joy, not through suffering. But Zen wisdom reminds us that the lotus blooms from the mud, not in spite of it. Growth emerges through the raw, unfiltered acceptance of every moment, especially the ones we wish to escape. True spiritual transformation begins when we stop curating our experience and begin meeting it fully, fearlessly, without adornment. Sit with your sorrow. Hold space for your confusion. Let your anxiety breathe. The second subtle sign is the unconscious attachment to identity, the quiet clinging to who you think you are, or who you believe you should become. We may think we are growing because we are changing habits, learning texts, sitting longer on the cushion. But if beneath that effort lives a desire to perfect the self, to be seen as wise, or awakened, or healed, then we are still polishing the ego rather than dissolving it. The awakened self is not an improved version of the old self. It is the one that has died into presence, that no longer needs to define, defend, or differentiate itself. In clinging to identity, even a spiritual one, we subtly resist the very freedom we seek. Buddhism teaches us to let go, not only of possessions and aversions, but of self-images, stories, and spiritual goals. Let go of the need to become someone. Instead, rest in the awareness of being. Just this breath, just this moment. The mind will rebel. It will say, but I must progress. I must heal. I must reach. And that too is something to notice. The very striving can become the obstacle. The harder you try to awaken, the farther you stray from it. Because awakening is not somewhere else. It is not a future event. It is the silent space beneath effort. It is the simplicity of now, witnessed without judgment. So how do you fix these blocks? You don't fix them like problems. You observe them like clouds passing in a vast sky. You name them with gentle awareness. Ah, here is resistance. Here is clinging. And then you breathe, and you let go. Again and again, not as a grand gesture, but as a daily return. You allow discomfort to be your teacher. You let identity soften into silence, and in that softening you find space. Space for peace, space for love, space for the sacred to rise, not as an achievement, but as the essence of what you already are. Remember, the path is not linear. Some days you will feel lost. Some days you will feel empty. But emptiness is not a lack. In Buddhism, emptiness is potential. It is the openness from which everything flows. So honor your stuckness. It is not failure. It is an invitation. Lean in. Be still. Let the Dharma do its quiet work, not by force, but by presence, not through grasping, but through surrender. The signs that block your path are not enemies. They are signals. They are Dharma gates. Walk through them with humility, with patience, with love. And as you continue walking the silent path of awakening, you begin to notice something even deeper. That spiritual growth is not something to be owned or tracked like a possession, but something to be lived moment by moment, breath by breath, in the mundane as well as the profound. In the Zen tradition, the simple act of sweeping the floor or pouring a cup of tea becomes an opportunity for awakening, not because the act is sacred in itself, but because of the consciousness with which it is done. And so the true work of dissolving your spiritual blocks lies not in lofty retreats nor dramatic revelations, but in the subtle shifts of awareness in everyday life. Watch how your mind reacts to irritation when someone interrupts your quiet. See how quickly you build stories when someone misunderstands you. These are the quiet doorways into insight. The ego thrives on division, on the illusion of separateness, the belief that we are this and not that. But the Dharma teaches that all things are interdependent. All phenomena arise in relationship. When we grasp too tightly to our preferences, to our perceived identities, to our notions of progress, we create friction where there could be flow. The second sign, attachment to identity, can become even more deceptive when it wears a spiritual mask. You might say, I am the kind of person who meditates every morning, or I no longer feel anger like I used to. But in labeling, even positively, we confine ourselves. We build walls inside the temple of our own being. Letting go of this requires courage. It means allowing yourself to be formless, to meet each moment without the protection of a label or expectation. Can you simply be, without needing to explain or justify your being? Can you allow yourself to be a beginner over and over again? This is the heart of Zen, to return again and again to the present moment with fresh eyes, beginner's mind, and open hands. If you find yourself resisting discomfort, pause. Ask gently, what am I unwilling to feel? It could be shame, loneliness, fear of failure. And then invite that feeling in, like an old friend. Sit with it. Don't analyze it or fix it. Just be with it. Let your awareness be the loving space that holds even the most difficult emotions without judgment. This is the alchemy of presence. By allowing pain to exist without resistance, it begins to soften, to reveal its lessons, and ultimately, to pass. Similarly, when you find yourself clinging to identity, pause. Ask, who would I be without this label? Let the question sit in your belly. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Notice how reality continues, spacious and alive, even when the self-concept fades. This is not the erasure of self. It is the expansion beyond it. It is not the destruction of personality, but the liberation from identification. You can still have preferences, roles, and goals, but you are no longer bound by them. You are no longer limited to the shape your mind carved for you. You begin to live from a deeper place, a stillness that does not need to prove itself. The Zen masters often say, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The outer life remains unchanged, but the inner attitude transforms completely. Life becomes a mirror, reflecting back to you the places where you still hold tension, where you still seek control. And, instead of reacting, you begin to respond with mindfulness, with presence, with love. You begin to see that the true obstacle to your growth was never the world. It was the mind's resistance to what is. This insight is both sobering and liberating. It returns the power to you, not to fix yourself, but to fully accept yourself. And in that radical acceptance, transformation happens naturally, without force. This is how you fix the subtle blocks, not by chasing awakening, but by embodying awareness right here, right now, in whatever form this moment takes. You stop trying to escape your humanity and instead use it as your path. Every emotion becomes a teacher. Every setback becomes a gate. Every breath becomes enough. And so the journey continues, not forward as a path to chase, but inward, deeper and deeper, into the stillness that has always been present within you, waiting not to be acquired, but remembered. The more you sit with yourself in awareness, the more clearly you begin to see the games the mind plays, its endless seeking for safety, approval, identity, control. You realize that the root of suffering is not in what arises, but in how we resist it, how we judge it, how we try to make it other than it is. And slowly, with gentle attention, the grip of those patterns loosens. You no longer need to be the person who has it all figured out. You no longer need to hold yourself together so tightly. You let yourself fall into the openness of the moment, trusting that awareness will hold you. This is the subtle turning point, when your practice becomes less about changing and more about meeting. Meeting what is here, without resistance, without commentary, without needing to turn it into something else. This meeting is love. This meeting is presence. This meeting is where the block begins to dissolve, not because you forced it, but because you no longer feed it with fear. And as your practice matures, you begin to see how deeply interconnected everything is. Your thoughts, your emotions, your breath, the sound of the wind outside, the smile of a stranger, the hurt you carry from childhood, the healing you offer by simply listening. All of it, part of one vast interwoven whole. The illusion of separation begins to fall away, and with it, the illusion that your healing is only for you. Every moment you choose awareness over reaction, compassion over judgment, presence over avoidance, you offer that same freedom to the world. Your spiritual growth is not a private project. It is a living ripple in the ocean of life. You may not see the full impact, but it matters. Just as the wind shapes the dunes and the river carves the canyon, your quiet practice of showing up, again and again, shapes the world in unseen, essential ways. And in this way, fixing the block becomes not about effort, but about surrender, not about striving, but about softening. It becomes a return to truth, the kind of truth that cannot be spoken, but only lived. You begin to recognize the signs of resistance not as failures, but as invitations. The tightness in the chest, the urge to distract, the feeling of being stuck. These are not signs that you are broken. They are signs that something within you is asking to be seen. And you meet them with curiosity, with breath, with stillness. The ego may protest, clinging to its old identities and stories, but you see through its desperation. You see that it is not the enemy. It is the scared child, the outdated protector, the part of you that once needed walls and now longs for freedom. And you embrace it too, without needing it to go away. This is how spiritual growth deepens, not in dramatic flashes of enlightenment, but in these small, invisible moments of turning toward what is, over and over again, like returning to your breath, like bowing to the ordinary, like letting your heart be touched by the world. And as you grow in this way, not upward but inward, you begin to understand that peace is not the absence of pain, but the presence of wholeness. It is not about fixing every thought or perfecting your practice. It is about remembering who you are, beneath the noise. And who you are is not the anxiety, not the resistance, not the identity. Who you are is the space in which all those things arise and pass, vast, silent, free. This is the heart of the path, to let go of the idea that you need to become something, and instead to wake up to the truth that you already are everything. The sky does not try to be blue. The rose does not strive to bloom. They simply are. And in their being, they reflect the same presence that lives in you. Let that be enough. Let your being be your gift. Let your stillness be your offering. Let each breath be a doorway, each moment a practice, each challenge a teacher. And in doing so, the signs that once blocked you become the very signs that guide you home. If this message resonates, subscribe for daily Zen reflections and guided wisdom to help you reconnect, reflect, and become fully yourself. Until then, remember, the obstacle is the path.